Welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, a show celebrating and questioning one of the most beloved entertainment companies in the world through honest, passionate, and clear-eyed Disney discussions. I'm Jeff DePauli, your entertainment-obsessed host with rose-colored glasses removed. If you're listening to this episode on the day of its release, today marks the 45th anniversary of the original Star Wars movie, which of course became a worldwide phenomenon, so may the Force be with you all. Disney and Star Wars have a long history together. It all started with the e-ticket attraction Star Tours at Disneyland. Back then, who knew that just a couple of decades later, the Walt Disney Company would no longer need to license these characters from George Lucas for use in their parks, as they would later own the entirety of Lucasfilm. But there was a shift in Disney's relationship with the Star Wars characters once they purchased them. What used to be a very playful franchise that they didn't take all that seriously has now become serious business with extremely strict rules in regards to timeline, continuity, and character integrity. But has the Walt Disney Company gone too far? Join me as I chat with Star Wars aficionado and mega fan Mike Celestino about this change in policy from a long time ago when Disney simply licensed the characters to now as they currently own them.
It's time to dive into today's Disney dialogue.
Alrighty folks, today I have Mike Celestino from Laughing Place, their resident Star Wars aficionado, joining me. Hey Mike, how's it going?
It's going really well, Jeff, getting ready for Star Wars Celebration. Very busy time of year for me. May, just in general, May the 4th was really crazy. And got Obi-Wan Kenobi coming up, of course, as well. So a lot of Star Wars, all the time in my life.
Yeah, May is very Star Wars fan-centric. As you said, you've got May the 4th be with you on May the 4th, and then the theatrical release of the original Star Wars movie was on May 25th, 1977, which just so happens to be the day that this episode is being released, marking the film's 45th anniversary. And then just a couple days later, after that, we got the return of Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I'm actually really excited for. I gotta admit, I'm still struggling through. I've got like 2 episodes left of Boba Fett. It has not really grabbed my attention, but I will finish it before Obi-Wan Kenobi comes out. So I'm looking forward to that. And as you said, Star Wars Celebration. So May is the month for Star Wars fans.
That's very, very true. I mean, I consume Star Wars pretty much every day, both from my job and my personal life. But yeah, this May especially has felt especially crowded.
Yeah, I love that Jurassic fans have kind of done this for themselves. Do you know like what the month for Jurassic fans?
No, I'm not. I haven't heard of this. What?
Jurassic June.
Jurassic June. Okay. That makes sense.
I live in the Jurassic fandom world, and Jurassic June is a thing. And yeah, the films, I guess, do tend to come out in June. I know this newest one is coming out next month, so Jurassic June is a thing. I know they released a lot of toys then, but in any case, today is about Star Wars, because before Disney owned Lucasfilm, of course, Star Wars was present in the Disney parks and in the Disney universe, even long before they owned Lucasfilm. And it was a time when they were super playful with the characters, almost kind of in a mocking way, to be completely honest. And they presented Star Wars in a very kind of silly fashion. But since buying Lucasfilm, they treat Star Wars with such a strict storytelling and representation guideline. It's like they've done a complete 180 with how they handle Star Wars. So that's the topic of today's conversation. I've honestly wanted to have this conversation for a while. I find it kind of funny. It's kind of like, oh yeah, when it's your toy, we can make fun of it. But when it's our toy, gotta take it super serious.
I find this to be very accurate, what you're observing here. And yeah, I had seen a lot of these clips that you sent me before. And there's definitely, like, I can't imagine most of this stuff happening nowadays. It would be kind of unforgivable and unthinkable for Disney to approach any of this kind of content when it comes to Star Wars.
Yeah, so I think, there's a slight bit of hypocrisy to it, but also, there's definitely different leaders than there were way back in the day. And the first Star Wars Disney collaboration would have been the opening of Star Tours at Disneyland on January 9th, 1987. And this, I believe, was the first non-Disney property attraction in a Disney park. And I mean, that's a huge turning point. That's a massive turning point. And this was Michael Eisner's doing. He very much felt like Disneyland needed to attract teenagers, right? It was a place for either really little kids or like grandparents, but that teenage audience they didn't have. And, like many CEOs, he didn't have the patience to create something that would then appeal to teenagers and have to wait years before it goes in the parks. So he looked for what was available and popular, and Star Wars was one of the things. And that's how it all started. And like it or not, it was a major pivot point for the parks.
It is kind of weird that it came during that period, though, because the late 80s is actually known as kind of the dark times for Star Wars, where we weren't getting a lot of Star Wars content. And I'm actually curious about how popular it would have been among teenagers in that period. I mean, I guess maybe the kids who were childhood age when the movies were coming out had become teenagers by that point. So maybe they had some nostalgia for that. But otherwise, I feel like Star Wars was in kind of this limbo really between the end of the original series, the original trilogy. The cartoons had ended by that point. The Marvel Comics series has ended, and we hadn't started the expanded universe of novels yet, which started in the early 90s. So it's Star Tours is kind of this lone oasis of Star Wars content that came out in the late 80s.
That's interesting that you say that, because wasn't that kind of a similar position with Star Wars? I mean, with Disney when they bought Marvel? Wasn't Marvel kind of like a has-been at that point? And Disney is what made Marvel huge again. And it sounds kind of similar. Like maybe they got the Lucasfilm agreement kind of inexpensively because they were doing nothing with it.
That could very well be the case. I know Marvel went through a rough period in the 90s where they actually went bankrupt. They actually sold off a bunch of the rights to the movies, movie rights to their characters, because that's why, Sony made Spider-Man and Fox got Fantastic Four and the X-Men, Universal got the Hulk, and the stuff that remained after that became the Avengers. And it's kind of interesting that like those second string characters kind of ended up being the core of the Marvel cinematic universe. But yeah, kind of a similar idea to what we're talking about.
Yeah, so very interesting. Like I said, this was a big deal for Disneyland. Everybody's heard the stories of opening day of Star Tours. Like, they stayed open for over 24 hours to handle the crowds. Like, it was insane. So this was a very big deal, and so it should come as no surprise that they had a grand opening ceremony that was huge. And honestly, like, even I had never watched this all the way through. Was this your first time or no?
I had seen it before, but not for a while, and I just watched it all the way through again about 45 minutes ago, and was surprised again. I had forgotten how very, very silly it is.
Yeah, so I will say, though, it was one of those things that as I was watching, was like, this must have been kind of amazing to be at. Like, I've been at some pretty amazing things in Disney parks and theme parks in general, openings and such, and one of them was the opening of Galaxy's Edge, but like, this is like obviously a much smaller scale, but just as big. Disney wasn't doing stuff like this back then.
That was actually my first thought as well, was, if I were doing the job I'm doing right now back in the late 80s, I would have been at this event and it would have been incredible. I would have been, well, you didn't have text back then, but I would have been texting everybody I know. You can't believe what's happening right now on stage.
Yeah, but it is funny. We'll get into some of the silliness of it, but it was also taken very seriously. In the audience were like real life astronauts and scientists and such. And so like it was taken seriously, but also super, super silly. I will, of course, include a video of this in the show notes that you can find a link to in the episode description. Everything we're talking about today, I'll have links for, because like, honestly, you got to check this stuff out. As much as we're going to talk about it, like, there's one thing talking about this and then seeing it. So this opening ceremony kind of featured a stunt show ballet, I would say. I feel like this has infamously become known as the Star Wars ballet.
I have heard that before. Yeah, you've got all pretty much all the major characters from the first Star Wars movie, but then also the Ewoks for some reason, because Luke, Han, and Leia are all in their costumes from A New Hope, like when they're on the Death Star, but then the Ewoks are there also, which just doesn't jibe in my brain. And Darth Vader shows up, and the Imperial Guards from Return of the Jedi. So it's all over the place. They have the cantina party going on after that. I don't know if we want to skip ahead, but you mentioned the astronauts, which I thought was funny because Star Wars is already kind of not really grounded in any kind of like science reality. It is very much fantasy sci-fi. With no real rules that adhere to our understanding of space travel. So I wonder what was going through those astronauts' heads as they were watching this.
That was probably Disney's way of justifying Star Tours being put in Tomorrowland.
Okay.
They're like, this is really doesn't belong here, but if we get some endorsements by real astronauts, perhaps. Right. It's probably one of those sorts of things. But when I say the Star Wars ballet, it really was like there was a dance between Leia, Luke, and Han that was like very kind of modern dance ballet sort of stuff, and to the Star Wars music, but it felt silly, it felt out of character. And you mentioned how like inconsistent the having the Ewoks with those versions of the characters were. I am curious, and I don't know the answer to this. Now, these days, Star Tours is very inconsistent timeline-wise.
Correct.
But the original Star Tours, which I've ridden many times but haven't thought this deep about, how consistent is that in Star Wars canon and timeline?
Well, I would say not at all, because as far as I know, within the canon, Star Tours doesn't show up at the Death Star battle and help blow up the Death Star.
A deleted scene. Scene.
So it's
so it is the Death Star in the attraction?
I mean, as far as I know, there were only ever two things called Death Stars that were spherical and had the laser that would blow up planets and stuff. And this is very clearly intended to be the first of those two. And you do help blow it up. And, you can watch that scene in the original Star Wars film and you don't see the Star Tours Star Speeder 3000 flying around in that space battle.
The special editions, when he went back in 97, he added that back in. Speaking of like special editions where like fans' heads burst, do you happen to know, I know we weren't really around or paying attention to this at the time, but like, do you know if Star Wars fans' heads burst when Star Wars ended up in a Disney park? Was that like a thing?
I feel like Star Wars fans get angry about literally everything, so it wouldn't
so they have a lot in common with Disney fans.
Exactly. That's why it's such a match made in heaven. But even to this day, people are angry that, like, Galaxy's Edge is in Disneyland. I mean, it happened all over again. I mean, it's certainly from the Disney purist side. I know some of those people are angry that Galaxy's Edge has taken up so much real estate in Disneyland. From the Star Wars side, were people angry? I honestly couldn't tell you. I was 7 years old at the time. I really didn't get into Star Wars until I was like 11 or 12. So it was kind of off my radar at that point. But I would like to think people were pretty enthusiastic about Star Wars as a Star Tours, as a concept.
We also in this, I do want to mention, you mentioned the Ewoks were part of it. I was very happy to see, like, it looks like little people Ewoks.
Right.
So they were consistent in that sense, because I've talked about on the show before how I've seen, like, short people Ewoks, but not little people Ewoks. And this looked like little people Ewoks, which fantastic. Yeah. Good on them for making that accurate. But also we had Mickey and Minnie as part of the ceremony kind of toward the end in their classic Tomorrowland sort of astronaut uniforms. And, this is probably the first time we saw Mickey and the Star Wars characters together, I would assume.
That's probably a very accurate assumption. Can we talk about Mickey's voice? I know you're going to get there, right?
Oh, gosh. Now, this was, 87. So now this is actually kind of interesting to me because I feel like at this point, Disney character voices had been developed and started, because actually, wait a sec, Bill Farmer is doing Goofy for 35 years this year. So that takes us to 87, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah.
Maybe this is what spurred them to create Disney character voices? Because
Disney Channel was actually a huge part of why they spurred that. But so yes, so they had just developed the Disney Character Voices Initiative, and what we're talking about is Mickey's voice is subpar Mickey, essentially, in this little presentation. And it's not the Wayne Allwine Mickey that we would grow to love for the decades beyond that. But yeah, this would have been right when that was all starting. So it is interesting, and it's a very weak Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, it sounds like if you would ask your dad to do Mickey Mouse or something.
Exactly.
Like, hi, everybody, I'm Mickey Mouse.
So that was part of it. We also got, of course, Michael Eisner and George Lucas. And God, that must have just been an amazing day for George Lucas. I mean, we've heard the stories how, obviously you can't tell because it's George Lucas, and you can never tell how the man's feeling. But, you hear the stories of, I think he was at Disneyland on its second day of opening, and he's like a huge Disney Parks fan.
Yeah.
And Michael Eisner must have been thrilled. This was a huge deal for the theme parks under his tenure, like early on. So it was a huge deal.
It must have been an amazing day, except for Han Solo's mullet. That would have brought everybody down who was attending this event. But yes, definitely a big deal. Everybody must have been talking about it in both communities, in whatever form they may have been in the late 80s.
In their fanzines or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. So, that was the beginning of Disney and Star Wars. Right from the get-go, there was some silliness that came with it. But we're going to jump ahead now to the major silliness that was Star Wars Weekends. Now, Star Wars Weekends, some folks might not actually know this, was a festival held at Disney's Hollywood Studios for a string of weekends in May and June for a bunch of years. It was actually included in your daytime park admission. Can you believe that? Oh my gosh, not a separate ticketed event. Took place in 1997, 2000, 2001, and then annually from 2003 through 2015. It featured parades, Star Wars actors would be there for signings and photos, a lot of live panels, live shows, character appearances, and it was a big deal. And I'm curious, did you ever get to experience a Star Wars weekend?
I was actually there for the 2015 event. And
you were there for the last one?
Yeah, I didn't get to see any of the presentations really because I was there with my then girlfriend, now wife's family. And we were really just doing the parks where, we were trying to go on everything because we didn't get there that often. So I remember being at Hollywood Studios when this was happening. And I remember like the photo ops going on all around. And I remember like visiting the merchandise tent or whatever and getting there was like a set of droid pins that I bought. There's a little box of like blind box pins. And I remember I was excited that I got the chaser pin, the mouse droid that year. But other than that, I really didn't get to experience much of what was happening for Star Wars weekends.
I had a very similar experience, but before I get to mine, I've got to ask you, how much was it killing you to be there with that happening and you being like, I have to satisfy my girlfriend's family. I can't just wait in lines all day to meet these people. Like, that must have been killing you.
Not terribly, actually. I think I had been at Star Wars Celebration. I had actually been to Star Wars Celebration that year, just a few months earlier. So that's probably the place where I would have interacted with the most Star Wars personalities and the characters and stuff. I'm not a big photo op person, so that part of it doesn't really appeal to me. I guess watching the Q&A or the interview panels would have been the thing that interested me the most. But I remember actually Ricky Briganti would have like highlights of those on his podcast back then. So I would catch up on it that way. Ricky
from Inside the Magic.
Yeah.
Pre-ITMZ.
Correct.
Okay, cool. My Star Wars weekend experience was similar in the fact that I was on a family vacation. I did not know that this Star Wars weekends thing was going on, but I do remember walking around, and this would have been sometime after the prequels. And I remember like seeing the little boy who played, not Boba Fett. What was his son's name? Jango Fett or something?
Well, Jango Fett is the father, and Boba Fett is the young boy in the prequels, played by Daniel Logan.
Okay, so that little kid, I remember seeing him from like a distance at a table doing signings and being like, what is this thing? And like, not, I'm a very casual Star Wars fan, so I wasn't like super obsessed, but I remember being like, oh, this is something kind of cool and new and special. For the year that you went, 2015, did they know and or did they tell guests that it was going to be the final year? Do you know?
Oh, I don't believe so. I don't remember hearing anything about that, no.
All right. The thing we got to talk about that was really just blasphemous during this, which, listen, I say that, but fans loved this, and admittedly, even watching this online, it's hilarious, but it's just insane the way the characters are treated, is something called Hyperspace Hoopla, featuring Dance Off with the Star Wars Stars. So right from the beginning, we've got a parody of Dancing with the Stars called Dance Off with the Star Wars Stars. And I just picked a couple of random years to watch videos of with you. 2010 was one of the years. We have the Jawas and Chewbacca dancing to Walk This Way.
Doing a bit of a Run DMC. They have the hats, they have the gold chains. It's fantastically ridiculous, and I loved every minute of it.
Okay, so you're into this.
I think it's amazing.
Okay.
This is another thing that I wish I had seen in person because, again, you'll never see this happen ever again in any kind of official capacity.
Yeah, I mean, there was so much of this stuff that I'm like, oh my gosh, those costumes exist. Where are they? Like, we're never going to see this stuff again. This is crazy. One of them, Queen Amidala with Princess Leia, which are two totally different timelines, right? Mm-hmm. So we'd
Correct.
never see them standing next to each other again. And Queen Amidala was lip syncing to Madonna's Material Girl. I mean, come on.
Not only that, they had, pretty much every major female character from all the Star Wars films around them. I think like Zam Wessel, even the shape-shifting bounty hunter was there. A very young looking Ahsoka Tano, like right after she would have been introduced, because this was 2010. Ahsoka started appearing in 2008. So this is like 2 years after Ahsoka was created, basically. And you had her in her early costume from the Clone Wars TV show participating in the dance-off.
Yeah, and I mean, the crowds went wild, to be fair, like wild. People loved it. And it's kind of amazing that it was a thing that ever existed.
I am astounded. And Darth Vader with the Michael Jackson glove.
Dude, unbelievable. Yeah, we had stormtroopers and Darth Vader with an MJ, like, bedazzled glove dancing to Beat It. Come on, but before that even, we got a joke that I was like, oh, this would never go today, about Uncle Lars and Aunt Beru. Yes. And they're like, yeah, they're going to come out to perform Burning Down the House. And then they're like, oh, wait a second. No, that's not what that happened in real life or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's, first of all, disrespectful to these fictional characters.
You say that would never happen today, but we were looking over the exclusive merchandise coming to Star Wars Celebration next week, and one of them is Aunt Beru's Roast Coffee. It's a mug that says Aunt Beru's Roast Coffee, and there's, I forget what the exact wording is in like the tagline at the bottom, but it is definitely like supposed to be a joke about her being burned alive, basically, by the stormtroopers.
That's surprising. That's like official Disney merch. Yep. Wow. Wow, well, that's them not taking it too seriously, is it? But, no. Wow. That's them going to the Etsy wall sort of stuff right there.
Right.
Interesting. So there was that, like you said, Darth Vader and the Stormtroopers beat it. I mean, first of all, let's just say this whole dance-off stuff, like, they love Michael Jackson. Holy moly, was there a lot of Michael Jackson year in and year out. And, by the way, this was taking place in 2010 over by where the Jedi Training Academy took place, right next to Star Tours. But it obviously got bigger, because in 2013, they put it on a big stage right in front of the giant Sorcerer's hat at Disney's Hollywood Studios. So it became an even bigger part of Star Wars weekends, where, first of all, did you happen to notice the microphones that the hosts were holding?
Oh, no, I didn't.
I actually kind of want these microphones, because the mics looked like lightsaber hilts.
Ah, okay. That's cool.
It was a really cool design. And I was like, neat. That's actually clever. I like that. We got some stupid puns in here. Like, there's this like FedEx thing that was called Ewok X. So it's just like stupid little silly things. This time we get the Emperor in gold chains dancing to the Beastie Boys.
With Greedo.
Yeah, with Greedo. And it's just like, okay, this is happening. We even get like a little sketch backstage of the Emperor getting a massage, and we find out that he kind of cheated. And yeah, it was... I don't know. Any highlights to any of this for you?
Well, I'm actually watching it right now again on silent, on mute. And Ara Singh, the bounty hunter, just did a very suggestive move on stage, which I'm also surprised that they did in a Disney park. But yeah, this was a fun one, too. You got Chewbacca in a big crown. Which song were they doing here?
I'm forgetting which one it was.
Me too. I just watched this a couple days ago. I'm just like refreshing my memory. But yeah, this is it's just goes to show how incredibly different the approach was a decade ago than it would be right now. Oh yeah, you got Padme Amidala in her outfit from the end of Attack of the Clones, dancing along with slave Leia as well.
Once again, two different timelines. That doesn't make sense. And but that's all right, right? It's all as well. It's Star Wars weekends. So, but I will say these people in these costumes can dance.
Right.
Like that's the one thing I'll say is this is not like a thrown together thing. This is a well-rehearsed show. So I will say that was taken seriously. Like the actual production was taken seriously. It's just the approach was not at all. And that wasn't the point, right? Like it was supposed to be ridiculously silly. And Disney was okay with doing that at that point. We will never see this again. If we do, I will be, I guess they say never say never, but maybe, I don't know, man. It's so crazy to me.
Maybe, 30 years down the line, if Star Wars dies down a little bit as far as like the production goes, we can get this kind of production again at the parks.
Did you notice what happened at the end of this performance with Jedi Mickey? Did you happen to notice? This could all be in my head, but it very much felt like they purposefully cleared the stage of all the Star Wars characters until they would let Jedi Mickey come on stage. It felt very intentional to me. I could be reading too much into this, but did you happen to get that at all?
It hadn't clicked with me until you pointed it out, but I think that makes sense that they wouldn't want the Star Wars characters necessarily appearing alongside Mickey, even though he is dressed in Jedi robes.
Yeah, and which is far less blasphemous than like dancing to Michael Jackson.
Right.
So I found it kind of funny if that indeed was like intentional. I love that that's like where the line was drawn. Maybe that was probably to protect Mickey more than it was to protect the Star Wars characters, though.
Right.
So there's that. Speaking of those Disney characters, though, at Star Wars weekends, we often got to see the traditional Disney characters in Star Wars wardrobe, very much in a funny way often. There was Jedi Mickey in the traditional robe with a lightsaber and such. We had a Princess Leia Minnie Mouse with the side buns, and Goofy Vader dressed as Darth Vader, but in his boxer shorts though, which is an interesting choice. You got to keep it goofy, I guess. And Stormtrooper Donald Duck.
Right.
These costumes are kind of awesome. There's this very famous picture of George Lucas posed with them that I love. These are just costumes that are sitting in storage now, though, right? Like, I don't think these come out. If they should come out anywhere, it should be Star Wars Celebration.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. And I want to point out that Darth Vader Goofy is wearing his boxer shorts that have Mickey ears on them. And there's also a kind of a Mickey-colored astromech droid with Mickey ears.
Yes, indeed. So yeah, these were characters. I don't think I've ever seen them in person. Maybe I did as a kid at that Star Wars weekend I was talking about, but if I did, I have no memory of it. But these are characters, I'm not going to lie, like I would love to see this come out for a long lost characters sort of thing, or one of the races or somewhere.
Yeah, you would think like Star Wars Night, which they just did at Disneyland a couple weeks ago for May the 4th, and they're doing it again during Celebration, actually. That would be a good time to bring them out as well.
Yeah, I would love to see that. And I always think about that whenever I see a character that's so rare. I'm like, it's sitting somewhere. Like, it is somewhere, in a Raiders of the Lost Ark sort of warehouse, so...
Right.
So that's awesome. But yeah, anything else you wanted to talk about in regards to Star Wars weekends before we move on to something else?
I don't think so. I think I do remember seeing these guys, though, around, now that you mentioned it, when I was there. I think we passed by one of these photo ops, because the one in the video you sent me, they're in the hallway from the very beginning of the first Star Wars movie on the Tantive 4 spaceship. And I think I remember seeing either Jedi Mickey or I believe it was Jedi Mickey, actually. So I did get to see these guys in person, like very briefly, during my one day at Star Wars weekends.
I could totally be making this up, but if they do still exist somewhere, I bet you they're on the Star Wars cruises.
Oh.
I feel like I've seen pictures of them. They could be old photos I'm thinking of, but I feel like I've seen pictures of them on the what do they call the Star Wars cruises?
Star Wars Day at Sea?
Yes, exactly.
Now, I feel like Star Wars Day at Sea.
Oh, you've done it?
I did it in 2020. It was like right before the pandemic hit. I'm trying to remember if I don't think we did see these guys, because I think I would have taken pictures of them for work and I didn't. So I'm going to say they weren't there, at least in 2020, maybe before that. But in my experience, I don't believe they were there.
Okay, well, I think we should get them back somewhere, somehow. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's move on to Star Wars: The Adventures Continue. As I said, Star Tours, rather, The Adventures Continue. As I said, Star Tours is where it all started for Disney and Star Wars. But of course, it shut down for a good long length and reopened as Star Tours: The Adventures Continue, as we know it today, with all of the different versions and iterations. This opened in May of 2011. So if you can believe it, we have had The Adventures Continue for 11 years now, which is crazy to me because I remember being in the room at D23 Expo when they did this whole presentation about closing Star Tours. And it was like a moment in the room where like they really were playing it like Star Tours is going away. And then they had a bunch of stormtroopers come out and Darth Vader to be like, but you know, it's coming back bigger and better than ever. 3D, multiple storylines, yada, yada, yada. And it was a big deal. So to promote this back in 2011, they made these commercials of Darth Vader and some stormtroopers in Disneyland. And this is one of those things, like, they're hilarious commercials. They're awesome. And I feel like I should say, I love all of this stuff we're talking about. I think it's a blast. Yeah. I just think the irony of how strict they are now is what cracks me up. But these commercials were so funny. We see Darth Vader like watching a parade and riding the Astro Orbiter and watching the Enchanted Tiki Room and like doing all of this super childish stuff in Disneyland as Darth Vader.
I love these ads as well. As somebody who's done a little bit of video production here and there, my initial thought rewatching these was, when did they shoot them? Because I think probably most of this ad was shot probably at like 6 o'clock in the morning before they opened the park. But I wonder if there are any of these shots that they got like with real guests. What do you think?
You know, it's funny that you say that because I was thinking that as well. I feel like they did get some of this with real guests because, you know, there were crowds for certain, right, but it wasn't like super, super busy. So 2011, you know, the parks weren't as insane as they are now. And I'm sure in a weekday and an off month, they could have had light crowds. And, you know, obviously they would have been guiding the crowds and keeping them out of certain areas if they were shooting. But I would bet that a good chunk of this was shot during the day.
Yeah, I love all these gags. I love Darth Vader waving to the princesses. I love him getting scared on the Haunted Mansion and taking out his lightsaber and then lifting the sword in the stone with the Force. This is really clever and creative. The one thing I do want to point out about this that I noticed when you sent me these links is the first one came out in June of 2011, which would have been around the time The Adventures Continue opened.
Yeah, it opened May of 2011.
And then the second one you sent me is kind of a re-edit using a lot of the same footage, but it was released on October 31st, 2012. So Halloween 2012, which is the day after Disney bought Lucasfilm.
Which is a perfect
October
segue.
30th, 2012. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
That's the perfect segue. That's the next thing I wanted to get into because everything changed in October 2012 when Disney buys Lucasfilm, and all of a sudden, Star Wars is taken much more seriously. So that's interesting that the day after they So I guess the memo hadn't come out yet that, hey, no more playing around with Star Wars. Now we're taking it seriously because we bought the toys. There are toys now, and let's stop having fun with them, essentially, right?
I think that's about right. As far as the commercial goes, I feel like they had already gotten permission, so they felt okay kind of celebrating the deal, I think was the idea with kind of re-releasing it on that Halloween. But yeah, I don't know if not having fun was really the intent so much as keeping things a little more consistent, I guess.
Yeah, I guess Star Tours The Adventures Continue is really interesting because, as we said, it reopened before Disney bought them. But like, you'd think that is the one thing that is still super inconsistent. Like, timeline does not exist on Star Tours right now. And they seem to be totally okay with that because, let's face it, like, Star Tours should be closed. As great as an attraction it is, it just doesn't make sense to have a standalone Star Wars attraction not in Galaxy's Edge anymore. But it's popular, so they're not going to get rid of it. So, I don't know. Star Tours is its own thing. Part of me is like, yeah, I'm glad it exists. It's a great attraction. But then part of me is just like, God, this makes no sense.
I actually think when The Adventures Continue opened, I do think they said that it is set in a specific time frame. I want to say after Return of the Jedi, but that did not hold true for very long because they started adding segments when the sequel trilogy started coming out. And, you had Rey and Poe Dameron and Finn and flying around on Jakku and Kef Bir and all this other stuff. So, yeah, definitely at this point, the timeline is very inconsistent. But I do think they at least tried to keep things sort of around the same time period when it first opened, even though you were visiting planets from the earlier films, like the prequels and stuff.
I mean, honestly, at this point, the budget for Star Tours should not come out of Disney Parks and Resorts. It should come from Disney marketing, because that thing is used as a trailer and a commercial for whenever there's anything new Star Tours. Like, hey, we've added a scene from that into Star Tours. So, it really is kind of a billboard at this point.
Sure. I do wonder, actually, now that you mention it, which department that's coming out of.
And it's like that when they had that D23 day and everybody was like, why is the D23 day stuff like bigger than the Walt Disney World 50th stuff? Well, because D23 has I'm sorry, not D23, I meant Disney Plus Day.
Right.
Because Disney Plus has a much bigger budget than Disney Parks. But in any case, I digress. So what was like the first thing after Disney buys Star Wars and all of Lucasfilm? What is the first thing that they do with it? Is it the movies?
Yeah, so right after Disney bought Lucasfilm, they announced they would be making a new Star Wars movie trilogy. So that became the big thing that everybody was waiting for. But the first real content we got started at the beginning of 2015. So it was a little over 2 years before we got anything out of Disney Lucasfilm. And that would have been the new comic books from Marvel Comics and a novel series called Aftermath that was building up toward the Force Awakens movie. There were also, of course, Star Wars Rebels, which was an animated series that came out on Disney Channel and stuff like that. That started around the same period. But yeah, it was a little bit of a gap between the actual acquisition and starting to get content from Disney Lucasfilm.
Which makes sense, of course. And, as time passed, they got more and more serious about it. And the big, parks thing was Star Wars Galaxy's Edge being announced and built, of course, at which point, they have a super strict timeline that, fans are still talking about today. This is something that has kind of plagued Galaxy's Edge since it opened. And there's no denying it's just a really strict timeline that kind of is Disney shooting themselves in the foot. We've seen how having a loose timeline has really benefited Avengers Campus. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Star Wars fans can't help but wonder, oh gosh, what if? Like, what if there wasn't this strict timeline? We would have met Grogu by now in the parks, and stuff like that. So, being and it's a difficult position to be in because I really do respect and appreciate what they're going for, right? But I think it's a very, very hard sell. And it doesn't surprise me that fans are frustrated. I'm sure a lot of Imagineers are frustrated by it, but I am curious, you being a super fan, where do you lie? My guess is somewhere in the middle, but which way do you lean more? Do you appreciate it more or really wish they'd kind of loosen the belt?
Well, I would say both the approach to Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and the approach to Avengers Campus both have their pros and cons. I love the design elements of Galaxy's Edge. Everything looks real. You really feel like you've been transported to a different planet. I do wish they had followed through a little bit more on the interactive, kind of immersive theater nature, kind of what we got in Galactic Star Cruiser. I wish that was more present in Galaxy's Edge proper. And I think without that, the fact that we only have like a handful of characters that just kind of stand around and they'll take pictures with you, it does seem to be lacking. Like, if I would be okay with it firmly set between episodes 8 and 9 like it is, if there were more to do on the interactive side. And I don't mean poking on my phone. I don't mean the Star Wars data pad. I mean talking to real performers in costume and doing things in the land. I would be totally okay if that were the case. Then over at Avengers Campus, I feel like on the design level, it's not quite as impressive, but you do get these characters that show up every time there's a new Disney Plus show.
Not even show, episode.
Yeah, Moon Knight. We got Mr. Knight. You got Scarlet Witch was a big deal when the new Doctor Strange movie opened. America Chavez. Yeah, it is really exciting, both as a Marvel fan and as a theme park journalist, to go, oh, I get to go and meet the next Marvel character down at Avengers Campus. It would be really cool to have that happen at Galaxy's Edge. So I do think at this point I would lean toward, let's just be okay with Star Wars Galaxy's Edge having a more kind of open-ended timeline, or even designate like certain days of the week. Like, okay, today it's going to be between episodes 8 and 9, but then next week we're going to do the original trilogy era, and you can have Darth Vader there. You can meet Han Solo and Luke Skywalker. That would be amazing. There was one time I was passing by a kid talking to his father, and the kid asked, "Where's Han Solo? How come we can't meet Han Solo?" And all I'm thinking is this dad has to explain to his kid that Han Solo's dead at that point in the timeline. That's why he's not there. And that does feel like a shame.
So I completely agree with you as far as like the days of the week sort of thing. I think the solution is different timelines for different coasts.
Sure.
I think from day one, it would have been very smart to make Disneyland and Walt Disney World have different Galaxy's Edge timelines that would have set them apart, that would have definitely gotten people to visit both coasts, which would have been smart. The problem is the rides, right? The things we're talking about, whether it's special events at night are in a different timeline or different seasons of the year are in a different timeline. These are great options for getting the same guests back to experience it all, which I think would be so smart. And they're quote unquote easy fixes. The only thing that aren't easy fixes are the rides.
Yeah.
So it's like you either just have to look past that, or they'd have to invest a good amount of money to change some video production stuff, which would be way more difficult. But I think people would be fine just accepting, okay, the rides are really strict timelines, but the land isn't. And I think that's what we would have to do. And I think we will eventually get there, honestly. I think we have to.
I think we have to as well, because even from the very beginning, I would say the fatal flaw of Galaxy's Edge is that it feels kind of stagnant. And that's the one thing that Star Wars has never felt. And it just doesn't, because of that, it doesn't feel like Star Wars. Like if you just go and stand in the middle of Galaxy's Edge and look around, it just all feels very, almost kind of serene. I mean, except for the bustling crowds of guests, but it just feels like there's nothing really happening around you. And I feel like there's not a lot of that in Star Wars where there's nothing happening, you know? It feels almost counterintuitive to what I think of when I think of Star Wars, which is always very kinetic and energetic and constantly changing. And this is just this one thing and it'll never be different, you know, which feels very at odds with the spirit of the franchise.
And I would say that even the Galactic Star Cruiser, I haven't done it, but it seems like that's even more strict as far as that sort of stuff.
Yes and no, because I feel like it makes up for it with what I was saying earlier, which is the interactivity and the immersive theater nature of it. Now, I've only done the full Galactic Star Cruiser experience once, but I had an amazing time, and I want to go back and do it differently because I know I missed stuff because of the path that I chose or was ushered down, basically. But I don't know. I can't, because of the price point, I don't think there would ever be, I mean, maybe there are people going multiple times already, but it would be tough to get bored of it. I don't know if I would get bored of it that quickly.
Well, the interesting thing about all of this is, you know, we're talking about Disney taking Star Wars probably too seriously in most people's minds. But the funny thing is that George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, didn't even take it that seriously. Because in 1978, we got one of the most infamous projects, the Star Wars Holiday Special. So this is a year after the original film comes out. And this is, I mean, if you've never seen this, this is... I actually can't sit through it. I've tried multiple times. I don't even know if I've seen the whole thing because it's painfully bad, but it is just ridiculousness. And this was a holiday special made for television, I guess just to appease fans because Star Wars was so huge. They're like, we've got to keep doing something.
Yeah, I think kind of to fill in the gap between the first and second movies. And I kind of envy you not having ever seen it because I've seen it probably half a dozen times. And it is really tough to get through. It is, speaking of boring, it is just like watching paint dry, watching these Wookiees sit around their house and speak exclusively in the Wookiee language with no subtitles. It's just like, what are you thinking? But I do want to say that George Lucas wasn't really instrumental in getting this thing made. I think it was kind of farmed out. He's said in interviews that they basically loaned them the costumes, you know, and the actors, obviously, but he wasn't terribly involved with it other than that. And he's completely disowned it in the years since. I think once he swore that he would pay to destroy every copy of it if he thought it was possible. But yeah, he's not a fan of it either.
I mean, he had to have given permission to make it.
The permission was there, yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. And then also, you know, just even more fun things like Star Wars characters appeared on The Muppet Show in 1980, season 4, episode 17. We got Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker and himself, along with C-3PO, R2-D2, and Chewbacca, appearing on The Muppet Show in sketches like Pigs in Space, which is a direct parody of Star Wars with Gonzo as Darth Vader. Like, this is having fun with Star Wars. And once again, I don't know how involved George Lucas was, but he gave the permission to do it.
Yeah, he did give permission. And this is, I think, a really positive and acclaimed example of Star Wars being silly, and certainly one of my favorite examples because I've seen this episode a bunch of times. And the funny thing was that the Muppet Show was being filmed, I think, like right across the hall or something from where they were shooting The Empire Strikes Back in London. And, you know, there's some crossover there too, because you have Frank Oz performing Yoda in The Empire Strikes Back, and he also performed Miss Piggy and Fozzie Bear and Animal and a bunch of others on The Muppet Show. So those families were kind of intertwined already. There's some great photos out there, black and white photos of the Muppets visiting the Dagobah swamp on the set of The Empire Strikes Back. So you could see, you know, Miss Piggy and Kermit hanging out with Yoda and Mark Hamill on the set, and Irvin Kershner, the director, and stuff. So, yeah, those families were already involved with each other. And I think it was just such a natural fit to have Mark Hamill pop up as Luke Skywalker and as Mark Hamill. So he pretends like, you know, Mark Hamill and Luke Skywalker are basically different.
They're cousins.
They're cousins. That's right. Yeah. And then the whole thing ends with C-3PO doing a tap dance, and then they sing, I believe it's When You Wish Upon a Star.
When You Wish Upon a Star. So this is honestly kind of crazy. You talk about seeing the Muppet characters on the set of Empire Strikes Back, but I think the crazier thing is the C-3PO tap dance to When You Wish Upon a Star. I mean, which they're both now owned by Disney, the Muppets and the Star Wars characters. Like, this is like some Simpsons predicting the future stuff right here. Like, this was wild. And the fact that it was When You Wish Upon a Star that they tap danced to is just insane. I mean, really uncanny.
Oh, yeah. And then I always loved when, not to get away from the Muppet Show episode, but I always loved when Star Wars was referenced on Muppet Babies as well.
That's true. Yeah.
Like Gonzo would open a door and there'd be a TIE fighter. And there was a whole episode, I think, where they did a Star Wars parody on Muppet Babies. But I love those two franchises kind of working in tandem.
I forgot about the Muppet Babies thing, but even the opening theme song, I believe, showed a Star Wars clip in Muppet Babies.
Yeah,
if
I think
I'm
you're
remembering
right. Yeah,
correctly.
and there's the Indiana Jones bit in there as well. Yep.
So wow, it's so weird. That is so weird how it all worked out like that. Very, very interesting. But the Muppets and Star Wars have also gone on to live together in the toy world. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of like figurines of Muppet characters dressed as Star Wars characters, same way you'd see Mickey and Disney characters dressed as Star Wars characters. I find that weird and interesting, but that lives on. So. If there's one thing that George Lucas did take seriously, it was the toys when it came to Star Wars. So the fact that that was allowed is interesting. You had shown me a couple things as far as like video games and stuff and such that was Star Wars silliness happening back when George Lucas owned it.
Yeah, there was a game called Xbox Connect Star Wars, which is kind of a motion control game with a lot of different mini games in it. But the part that always floored me and makes me crack up to this day is there's like a dance-off mini game in there that's, again, it's motion controlled, so you like move your arms and legs to match the movements on the screen. But there's a song called Solo, which is about Han Solo, and you play as Han Solo and Lando dancing in the competition, and it just cracks me up. I think it's a parody of a real song called Solo, which I didn't know because I'm not cool, but I just love that song. And I actually attended the Solo A Star Wars Story premiere, and I tried to get the DJ to play that song at the after party, and he didn't know it and wouldn't bother looking for it.
That's hilarious. I love that. So basically, to sum things up, Star Wars has often been played with and had a lot of fun with it. But I'd say it's taken the most seriously now ever since Disney bought it. And Disney had fun with them as well at one point. And maybe they will again sometime soon. But right now, Star Wars is very serious business for the Walt Disney Company.
I will say the exception to that, and this is kind of where Disney puts all the Star Wars silliness these days, is in the Lego Star Wars franchise. So you've got the Lego Star Wars animated series. There was one called the Freemaker Saga, and then they've been doing these little specials now on Disney Plus. There was one for Christmas, Life Day, and there was one for Halloween last year, and they're very silly and very funny. And then they just released the Lego Skywalker Saga video game for every console, pretty much, and that's got a lot of silliness in it. So I think they've kind of decided, like, let's keep the Star Wars silliness to when it's in Lego form, because that's a little bit more like palatable, and we can differentiate that. Like it's different enough. It's not canon, and we can have fun with it in the way that you can't really with the characters as they would ordinarily look.
And Jurassic does the same thing. They have their whole Lego thing where they do that. So yeah, it's all very, very fun, interesting. A lot of it's weird, but it is all a reality. Everything we've talked about here today. As you mentioned, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, the last thing I want to mention is kind of going along with what you said. There was this animated series called Star Wars Detours that was in production. They had actually made a whole bunch of episodes of this series, and it was from, I think, a bunch of the people who did Robot Chicken, because they had done some basically licensed Star Wars parodies, because George Lucas had given them the thumbs up and stuff, and they used the music and they used some of the voice actors and things like that. But Star Wars Detours was going to be, I'm not sure even where it was going to be released, but they had made like dozens of episodes of this show. And then when Disney bought Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy took over, this series got put on the shelf, and it's never been released. It's just sitting somewhere. I know one episode, I think, has leaked ever, but you can go and watch the trailer on YouTube and stuff. But it would have been a very silly Star Wars parody animated series.
I'll include that link in the show notes for the trailer for sure. And it's one of those things, one of these days the public will see it. And I just gotta say, I really appreciate the fact that like George Lucas took his life's work and wasn't like, so it wasn't so precious to him that it's like, nah, you can't have fun with it. Like he had fun with it. And I think that's awesome. He certainly didn't need to license this stuff for the money. He wasn't doing it for that reason. Right. So I think it's fun that he had fun, and I appreciate that. Speaking of having fun, as you mentioned, Disneyland After Dark recently did their Star Wars night on May 3rd and 4th, and it's coming up again on the 27th. I assume you've gone, yes?
I went on May 3rd, the first night, yes.
Anything that you want to point out that was like particularly fantastic or maybe fun?
Well, a lot of people were very excited about some of the characters that were available for photo ops, like Captain Rex, not the Star Tours pilot, but the clone Captain Rex was there with the helmet on, available for photo ops. So people went nuts about that. I will say, when I was there the first night, it felt like a dress rehearsal, I guess I could say. Like it felt like they still needed to work the bugs out a little bit. And I am going back during Star Wars Celebration, so hopefully by then they'll have figured that out. But one of the cool things was they had the Cantina Band on the Tom Sawyer Island raft, kind of going around the river and playing the song, which also there was some technical glitches when I saw that. So they had so there was a sign on the raft that said Figrin Dan and the modal nodes in Arabesh, the fake Star Wars language. But the sign was upside down. Like the people who put it on just didn't know.
Oh no!
Which direction the letters go, because it's a Star Wars language, I guess, and nobody was there to tell them which way was which. And then
that's funny.
Also, like halfway through the performance, the sound just cut out, and the actors in the costumes just didn't know what to do. So I'm hoping the tech issues are fixed by this next iteration, this next event coming up next week.
Probably like $200, huh?
My work paid for it, so I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, it's probably around $200. Crazy. Well, that's cool. You mentioned photo ops with Captain Rex. I believe it was 80s night where they actually had photos with Captain Rex from Star Tours, right? That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I missed that. I think I was sick that day.
That was like the last big event I did before. Well, actually, that's not true. I did the Magic Happens. Oh, Magic Happens. Remember that? I did that event, but it was soon before pandemic lockdown. Yeah. It was 80s night, so
I remember that. Yeah.
So coming up on May 26th through the 29th, you do have Star Wars Celebration. I was going to go, except I actually have an event I'm doing with Kimberly J. Brown from Halloween Town. I'm going to plug that right now at Sugarmint Gallery in South Pasadena, California. If any of you want to meet her, she's doing meet and greets and autographs and stuff there. Check out sugarmint.com to book your time slot because it's going to fill up. That's sugarmynt.com. But first of all, as far as Star Wars Celebration, any tips for people going for the first time that you want to share?
Well, actually, a great tip that I heard from somebody else, and I was like nodding my head when they were saying it, is don't worry about the big panels. Like, people are going to be, I think it's a lottery system, actually. So if you don't get in, it's okay, because they're going to get live streamed. You could watch them, either go into one of the satellite rooms, or you can watch them live stream there, or they're going to be live streamed on the Star Wars YouTube channel as well. So you can always go back and check them out later. I would say if you can't get into one of the big panels, walk around the floor, explore the exhibit hall, or check out some of the smaller panels. I know that a lot of fans and friends of mine from the Star Wars community have submitted their own panels with great fun ideas, and you can go and enjoy those because those won't be available to watch anywhere else.
Very, very cool. Excellent. Well, Mike, this was a fun convo, but are you ready for some trivia?
I'm ready for trivia.
Do you know the answer? Get your brain gears churning and play along. It's trivia time.
Okay, Mike, before we hop into some trivia, I want to remind folks that they can find totally unique, magically inspired apparel over at Who's It's and What's It's. Listeners have heard me talk about them for a long time now, and I do that because I really do love the deep cut merch that they make for Disney fans. So if you haven't yet, check out the Who's It's and What's It's link in this episode's description, and even if you have and it's been a while, you should check it out because they are constantly updating with new products. And don't forget that DCTC listeners save 15% off of their entire order simply by using code DCTC when checking out. Now, Mike, would you like to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I hit you?
I'll go first.
Alrighty.
So speaking of Star Wars and silliness and ridiculousness, what character in a Star Wars movie says the line, "Take that ridiculous thing off"?
Oh, Han Solo says it to Chewbacca, right?
No.
Oh, gosh, it sounds... I feel like he was fixing the Millennium Falcon and Han Solo said that to him, but gosh, I was really confident about that, and I guess I'm confident. Wrong.
It is... You want me to tell you the answer?
Wait. No, it's Luke Skywalker. No, okay, who says it? It's so funny because, like, I could literally hear these characters saying it. But go ahead.
It is Snoke talking to Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi. He tells him to take off his helmet.
Oh, well, gosh, man, I failed there. But I failed confidently, I must say.
He did.
Alrighty, my question for you. We were talking about the Disney characters dressed in their Star Wars costumes like Jedi Mickey and such. Do you happen to know the Disney-fied droid's name that wears mouse ears and looks like a lot like R2-D2?
The one we just saw with the characters in that video? I do not know the name of that character. The droid.
It is apparently R2MK.
Okay.
And it is a Mickey Mouse stylized astromech droid. I have one other trivia question because this one, I love this question.
Okay.
Something that premiered at Star Wars weekends ended up becoming a staple for numerous Disney parks. Do you know what it is?
Oh, boy. Blue milk?
So essentially, Star Wars weekend was the birth of...
It wasn't blue milk being available? No?
Nope. It was more of a show.
Oh, is it lightsaber training?
It was Jedi Training Academy.
Okay.
That was first introduced at Star Wars weekends, which I did not realize, and ran for many, many years at the Disney parks. Might even still somewhere, I'm not sure. But yeah, I thought that was interesting to find out that started during the craziness of Star Wars weekends.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. Good one.
Excellent. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a lot of fun. I'm glad you're enjoying your Star Wars month. And before I let you go, is there anything you want to plug?
Yes, I have a web series that's been released on the Laughing Place YouTube channel. By the time this episode of this podcast comes out, all 5 episodes will be available to view. It's called Antiquities, a Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser story. It's part mockumentary. It's part fan film. And I'm very proud of the whole thing, especially the 5th and final chapter, which I really put a lot of effort and energy into. Please go and check that out. Antiquities, a Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser story.
Excellent. I'll be sure to include that in the show notes as well. So, Mike, thank you so much. May the Force be with you, and have a great rest of the day.
May the Force be with you.
Thanks for tuning into this episode. Don't miss any future episodes by subscribing and following Disney with a Z, coast to coast, on your favorite podcast app. This episode has been executive produced by Robert Scontrino. Gain rewards like Robert, including access to never-before-heard episodes and live-stream Q&As by visiting the Patreon link in this episode's description. And don't forget that I'll be matching 100% of your first month subscription to the charity Make-A-Wish for all new patrons joining this month, May of 2022. Basically, anything you need can be found in this episode's description, from additional information and links discussed in this episode found in the show notes, to the DCTC hotline where you can leave a voicemail and be heard on a future episode, access to the show's official website, some free gifts from me to you, and so much more. So be sure to check out this episode's description. Other than that, folks, have a magical day, and may the Force be with you. Bye!
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com. This podcast is part of the Podcast Network. Learn more about this show, plus find more quality and entertaining podcasts at thepodcastnetwork.com. That's DEPodcastnetwork.com.